yeah, yeah. Are you ready for me if I came through? Came down, yeah. What if what if I pull up on you? What if what if I came down? I'ma give you my glory. And one thing's for sure. I'ma bless you with the finer things that you could've asked for more. Know that they hating on you, ain't concentrating on you. I've been fixating on you, patiently waiting on you. You get what you want, they checking no tag. 12 different ice, you throwing a bag. Flex on the flowers, yeah, look at the swag. But she earned it, you right to brag. I'ma take you to the other side, yeah. I show you life on the other side, yeah. If you down for me, then I promise everything will be alright, oh yeah. I pull up on you, yeah, yeah. Are you ready for me if I came through? Came down, yeah. What if what if I pull up on you? What if what if I pull up on you?
Come like a thief tonight, rather be ready for me. The one gonna be working late, the righteous gonna see the glory. I can show you things that make you wonder like who made it. I made it, all of you, no one else can take it. I never be lonely. Need me, you can call me.
If I came through, I ain't ready, yeah. What if I pull up on you? Say you got real love, real what you saying to me real. Your actions say how you feel. Don't hold back, don't conceal. Everybody talking about real love, is it fake love, is it still love? Don't think a thing that's still love, is it ride or die, is it real love? What if I pull up on you?
What if I
you ready for me if I came through?
If I came down,
what if I pull up on you? What if you got it
now.
What if I pull up on you? Yeah.
Ain't stopping us now.
I can't play with pride. Gotta put it to the side. Wanna talk bad about me, let them know that's suicide. Worry on my mind, you ain't gon' waste my time. 247 on grind, all of the time. 24/7, putting my past in the rear view. Now I got the spirit, see a clear view. Choose wise with the ones you let near you. If you rollin', then you gotta have the fear too. Ops wanna chat, I don't hear you. Want me to respond, I don't care to. Gotta kill him with silence. OG, my guy. Watch for a op that gon' stab you in your back. Cars in the barrel, they wanna hold you back. On another level, I've been wider than the gap, yeah. Ain't stopping us now, no way. Watch for a op that gon' stab you in your back. Cars in the barrel, they wanna hold you back. On another level, I've been wider than the gap, yeah. Ain't stopping us, no way. Pride, real. Gotta put it to the side, real. Wanna talk bad about me, let them know that's suicide. Worry on my mind, you ain't gon' waste my time. 247 on grind, all of the time. 24/7, solid like a rock right now. They wanna see me dry right now, but I'm headed to the top right now. They plotting and he steady taking shots right now. Ops wanna chat, I don't hear you. Want me to respond, I don't care to. Gotta kill him with silence. OG, my guy. Watch for a op that gon' stab you in your back. Cars in the barrel, they wanna hold you back. On another level, I've been wider than the gap, yeah. Ain't stopping us now, no way. Watch for a op that gon' stab you in your back. Cars in the barrel, they wanna hold you back. On another level, I've been wider than the gap, yeah. Ain't stopping us, no way. Pride, gotta put it to the side. Wanna talk bad about me, let them know that's suicide. Worry on my mind, you ain't gon' waste my time. 247 on grind. All of the time. 24/7. Putting my past in the rear view. Now I got the spirit, see a clear view. Choose wise with the ones you let near you. If you rolling, then you gotta have the fear.
Watch for a op that gon' stab you in your back. Get some crabs in the barrel, they just wanna hold you back. Whoa, ain't stopping this, ain't stopping this, ain't stopping this. Now my boy, watch for a op that gon' stab you in your back. Get some crabs in the barrel, they just wanna hold you back. Whoa, ain't stopping this, ain't stopping this, ain't stopping this.
Peace out, peace out. Look, I ain't saying it ain't all to let go, but sometimes that's how it's gotta go. They say I'm cold, I'm just preserving my soul. Peace out. You said your piece, I said my piece. Now I got peace, I got peace of mind, yeah. And there ain't no looking back, so peace out. Peace. You said your piece, I said my piece. My blessings increase, I got peace of mind, yeah. And there ain't no looking back, so peace out. Been the hell I'm back and I got some battle scars on me.
Check, check, check. All right, mic check, 1 2 1 2. Let me slide over. I don't want my IT to get mad at me. I'm off. Hey, good morning, good morning. Most High in Christ bless. You tuned in to History in the AM. Am I good? Am I good? Okay. Captain Kimuel, live from Orlando. So welcome. We're gonna get started. Do I have my scribe on? Do I have my scribe on? Okay. All right. We got a few people on. Let's get started. So, as you know, I've been going through those series, the Wars of the Lord, and the goal is to, up until Passover, all right, going through different battles, different wars fought, and the warriors, the leaders of those battles, okay? So we've been going through Joshua. Today, we're going to go through Joshua basically from the crossing of the Jordan into Jericho and the capturing of the city of Jericho, okay, when we marched around the city and the walls collapsed, all right? Lord willing, we can get to there. I don't know if we're going to get that far, but we're going to try, all right? We're going to try. All right, so we're going to get started. Joshua chapter 2 and verse 1. And let me just pull up. Bear with me just a second. All right, Joshua chapter 2 and verse 1. There's going to be a bit of reading, and there's going to be some tying of the history together. There's going to be, you going to read? You going to read? All right. So we're going to start at Joshua chapter 2 and verse 1 then.
Check. The book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 1. And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, Go to the land, even Jericho. And they went and came into an harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. Verse 2. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, Bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, There came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I wot not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof.
Okay. All right. So, what are we going over right now? We're going over the spies that Joshua sent out. Okay. Spies Joshua sent out to go spy out the land. So Joshua 2:1. Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy secretly, saying, go view the land, even Jericho. Now, Joshua had some experience at this. Remember now, Joshua came up under Moses. All right, so we're getting to a point where Joshua is a very capable leader. He's asking the men, or he's commanding the men, I should say, go out and spy the land. Let's go back to the book of Numbers, chapter 13. We're going to show you Joshua himself fulfilled that same mission. Numbers 13. Let's read 1 through 3, and then we're going to read verse 8.
The book of Numbers, chapter 13 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel.
Okay, now jump down to verse 8.
Verse 8. Of the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, the son of Nun.
Of the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, the son of Nun. Now let's jump down to verse 16, and you'll see this. Hoshea is indeed Joshua.
Verse 16. These are the names of the men which Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses called Hoshea, the son of Nun, Jehoshua.
You see that? He called Hoshea, the son of Nun, Jehoshua, all right, or Joshua. So let's go back, all right? Joshua chapter 2. Now read verse 2 again, 2 and 3 together.
The book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 2. And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel, to search out the country. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, bring forth the men that are come to thee, which are entered into thine house, for they be come to search out all the country.
Now, just think about it, okay? Now, Rahab, she was of the people of the country, right? The men came to spy out the land, and she took them in. Now, we're going to get the understanding why she took them in, but now just think about this. The woman gets a knock on the door, all right? Men sent from the king saying, bring forth the men that are come to thee, right? Now, how did they know? I'll give you a precept. Go to the book of Judges, chapter 16. We're going to read verses 1 and 2, all right? 2 being the point. Judges 16, 1 and 2.
The book of Judges, chapter 16 and verse 1. Then went Samson to Gaza, and saw there an harlot, and went in unto her. And it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come hither.
Samson is come hither. Go ahead.
And they compassed him in, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city.
And they did what?
And laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city.
Because they knew he was within the city. Go ahead.
And were quiet all the night, saying, in the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him.
And it said they were quiet all night, but they were lying in wait. They were lying in wait. So just as they saw Samson, same thing. The men saw the 2 spies of the Israelites coming into the land. Now, let's pick up at verse 4.
Verse 4. And it came to pass afterward that he loved the woman in the valley of Sarek, whose name was...
No, back to Joshua. Joshua 2 and 4.
The book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 4. And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, there came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were.
So this is the way she responded back to the men that were sent by the king. She said, there came men unto me, but I don't know whence they were. Go ahead. Or who they were. Go ahead.
And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark.
Now, hold on. It says, and it came to pass at the time of the shutting of the gate when it was dark. Get Nehemiah 13 and 19, because we read this a lot of times to show you when the Sabbath comes in. But you got to understand that the cities, they closed the gates. That's the same thing we just read. That's why I went to Judges. Same thing we read. There were gates and walled cities, right? And they would close the gates in the evening. Go ahead, bring that up.
The book of Nehemiah, chapter 13 and verse 19. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut and charged that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath.
Now, you know what? I didn't send you this picture. I want to send you a picture of the gates, the leaved gates. Matter of fact, I'm gonna send you two pictures, Duell. All right, send these to you. Coming to you right now. Put up the bottom one first. Put up the bottom picture first, and get Isaiah chapter 45, verse 1 and 2. You could put that up. You could put it up while you read that. I know. Got you doing. All right. So this is a picture of gates, all right, or leaved gates, doors. You see the gate that can come straight down, and you have the two leaved gates or doors that open up, right? So close these, because when they closed those, there was no going in or coming out. All right. So in the evening, they would close the gates, and in the morning, they would open them back up. All right. Keep that up. Read Isaiah chapter 45, verse 1 and 2.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 45 and verse 1. Thus saith the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two leaved gates.
The what?
The two leaved gates.
The two leaved gates. Go ahead.
And the gates shall not be shut. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight.
Okay. That's all I wanted right there. The two leaved gates. Go to the book of Psalms, chapter 107 and verse 16. Psalms chapter 107 and verse 16.
The book of Psalms, chapter 107 and verse 16. For he hath broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron asunder.
So I got that to show you what some of these gates were made of, brass and iron bars. Now, I want you to put that other picture up. Because remember now, from when they went and spied out the land prior, that they said that they had high walls. All right. So I wanted to show you the gates. Now I'm showing you a wide view of the actual like cities and walls. All right. The city is behind those high walls. All right. And we showed you the gates. Now I want you to get Judith chapter 10 and verse 9. Let me give you another precept about the opening and closing of the gates. Judith chapter 10 and verse 9. Now, you can leave that other picture back up about the walls. I want them to see. Yeah, leave that up for a second. Go ahead.
The book of Judith, chapter 10 and verse 9. And she said unto them, command the gates of the city to be opened unto me, that I may go forth to accomplish the things whereof ye have spoken with me. So they commanded the young men to open unto her as she had spoken.
Okay, so she said, open up the gates of the city. Okay, and then when she went out, when they opened them, she went out. This is the history where Judith was going to cut off the head of Holofernes. All right, so let's go back. Let's go back to Joshua chapter 2, verse 5. Let's read 5 and 6 together.
The book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 5. And it came to pass about the time of shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Whither the men went, I wot not.
Mm-hmm.
Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof.
So to preserve their lives, she told the men that the king sent, hey, I don't know where they went, but you know what? If you pursue them quickly, you should probably, you'll be able to overtake them, right? But they were hiding upon the roof. All right. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 8. And a while back, Bishop Kanai did a class, and he was going over a lot of the laws. And I remember he had addressed this about the roofs. I want to show you all something. The roofs that you see today are not like what we had in our ancient times. Okay. You see these pitched roofs like that. That's not what we had back then. All right. And we're going to show you a few scriptures just to give you the understanding. Get Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 8.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 22 and verse 8. When thou buildest a new house, then thou shalt make a battlement for thy roof, that thou bring not blood upon thine house, if any man fall from thence.
So a battlement, I don't know if you can find, I don't want you, I know you're trying to do a lot of things at once, but a battlement, matter of fact, put that other picture back up. Put the one with the high walls. Okay, so what you see around the edge would be like a battlement, all right? It's a protection so that nobody will actually fall over the edge of the roof, all right? You got a picture of a battlement? All praises, all praises. Let's get that picture then. There you go. Okay. Excellent, excellent. So that's a battlement. So you put up a battlement, right? So nobody falls off of the roof, okay? Now, watch this. Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 11 and verse 2. 2 Samuel 11 and verse 2.
The book of 2 Samuel, chapter 11 and verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof.
And did what?
And walked upon the roof.
You can't walk upon a high-pitched roof, and especially some of those like colonial houses or buildings. We just came back from Curacao and Aruba, and those are the Dutch buildings, and they have some very steep pitched roofs. Okay, read that again.
And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house.
Mm-hmm.
And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself, and the woman was very beautiful to look upon.
So David was walking around on top of his roof. Let's get Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 16. Nehemiah, the 8th chapter and the 16th verse.
The book of Nehemiah, chapter 8 and verse 16.
Uh-huh.
So the people went forth and brought them and made themselves booths, every one upon the roof of his house.
Because when we keep the Feast of Tabernacles, all right, we must dwell in booths, or today we dwell in tents, okay? But these were on the tops of their houses. Go ahead.
Every one upon the roof of his house, and in their courts, and in the courts of the house of God, and in the street of the water gate, and in the street of the gate of Ephraim.
All right, from there, let's go to the book of Judith again, chapter 10 and verse 2. Judith chapter 10 and verse 2.
The book of Judith, chapter 10 and verse 2. She rose where she had fallen down, and called her maid, and went down into the house, in the which she abode in the Sabbath days, and in her feast days.
So it says that she arose from where she had fallen down and called her maid and went down into the house, and went down into the house. Let's see why. Go to chapter 8, verses 4 and 5. Chapter 8, verses 4 and 5.
The book of Judith, chapter 8 and verse 4. So Judith was a widow in her house 3 years and 4 months.
Uh-huh.
And she made her a tent upon the top of her house.
You see that? She made a tent upon the top of her house, just like when we read in Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 16, how we made booths on the tops of our houses. Go ahead.
And she had made her a tent upon the top of her house, and put on sackcloth upon her loins, and wear her widow's apparel.
All right, so now let's go back to Nehemiah. Let's go back to Nehemiah, and let's read, Joshua. Go back to Joshua, and let's read chapter 2, verses 4 through 7 now.
The book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman took the 2 men and hid them, and said thus, There came men unto me, but I wist not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the men went out. Where the men went, I wot not.
Mm-hmm.
Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them. But she had brought them up to the roof of the house, and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had laid in order upon the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate.
Okay, so now, verse 7, it says, and the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords, because they were following what Rahab had said. Okay, so they thought that they were going to go and overtake the spies. And it says, and when the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords. So what are the fords? Let's get Genesis chapter 32 and 22. Let's get a little understanding of what does it mean they pursued them unto the fords. All right, Genesis chapter 32 and verse 22.
The book of Genesis, chapter 32 and verse 22. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford Jabbok.
Uh-huh.
And he took them. And he took them and sent them over the brook.
Over the what?
Over the brook.
Uh-huh.
And sent over that he had.
So now, pull up one of those maps that have Jabbok. Jabbok. Just want to show y'all something right. Because when we read, while you get that, I'm going to read it again. It says, and he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford Jabbok. All right. Got that. I think I sent them directly to you. Okay. All right. Blow that up just so we can see Jabbok, the river. All right. I want you, blow it up a little more if you can. All right. You see how it says Jabbok river, right? So I'm going to read it again. Keep it up while I read it. And that's going into what? The Jordan. You see how the Jabbok is a tributary from the Jordan River. All right, so it says, and he rose up that night and took 2 of his wives, took his 2 wives and 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook and sent over that he had. So a brook is like a shallow river, okay, a stream even. So that ford or brook and even river is interchangeable because it was a very shallow river. All right. So now let me go back. Joshua chapter 2, verse 7. And it says, and the men pursued after them the way to Jordan unto the fords as soon as they which pursued after them were gone out, they shut the gate. All right, you can pick up at verse 8.
The book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 8. And before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof. And she said unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you.
You see that? She said, we've heard these things, that fame and that glory of what your God did for you. It even came to our land. We heard what he did to you did for you at the Red Sea. Go ahead.
For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the two kings of the Amorites that were on the other side Jordan,
That were on the east side of the Jordan. Go ahead.
Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as we had heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God in heaven above and in earth beneath.
You see that? So the heathen know. The heathens know. The heathens know that we have the only true living God. They know that. Get that in Psalms chapter 96 and verse 5. Let's prove that. The heathens know. Let's prove that the heathens know that. Psalms chapter 96 and verse 5.
The book of Psalms, chapter 96 and verse 5. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens.
But the Lord made the heavens. Even the heathen know that the Lord made the heavens. Now, she said that your terror is fallen upon us. Let's go back. I'm going to read Joshua 2 and 9 again. And she said unto the men, I know that the Lord hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 2 and verse 25. Deuteronomy chapter 2 and verse 25.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 2 and verse 25. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven, who shall hear report of thee and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee.
That's the precept. That's the precept right there for when she said that your terror is fallen upon us, and how they heard about the things that were accomplished because of our God, how we passed over the Red Sea when we were fleeing Egypt and Pharaoh, how we destroyed the kings of the Amorites on the other side of the Jordan, Sihon and Og. All right, so now let's pick up at Joshua 2 and 12.
The book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 12. Now therefore, I pray you, swear unto me by the Lord, since I have showed you kindness, that you will also show kindness unto my father's house, and give me a true token.
So now she's asking, be merciful. You see what I did. You see how I covered for you. Be merciful. But why did she do that? That was of the Lord. Okay, a man's goings are of the Lord. So she did that because the Lord had sent out those men to spy out the land, and he provided a safe haven. Matter of fact, let me get I haven't gone here in a minute. I think it's in Proverbs 16, Dewey. Yeah, I know there's one in Joshua also, but I think it's Proverbs 16 and 7. Yep. That's it. Yep.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him.
So right now, even the enemy of our people, right? Even Rahab, she was being peaceful, and she was doing what the Lord stirred her spirit up to do, and that was to preserve the men. All right, so let's go back. So now she's asking them, be merciful. She wants to enter into a covenant. You saw what I did. I had your back. I got your back. All right. Be merciful unto my father's house. All right. Read on. Verse 13.
Book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 13. And that you will save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. And the men answered her, our life for yours, if you utter not this our business. And it shall be, when the Lord hath given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with thee. Then she let them down by a cord through the window, for a house was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall.
Now, I want you to put that picture. That's why I wanted that picture too. Put that picture back up of the high walls. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So now I want you to read verse 15 again while you keep that picture up.
Verse 15. Then she let them down by a cord through the window, for her house was upon the town wall.
Okay, you see how those houses, see the tops of the walls? So she had a house that was upon the wall. Go ahead.
That was upon the town wall, and she dwelt upon the wall.
Okay, so now she let them down. So look, they were scaling that thing, doing some old Mission Impossible stuff right there, okay? Because why? Because just like we read, matter of fact, I don't want y'all to forget the thought. Go back to Judges again right quick. Go back to Judges 16 and read verse 2. Just read verse 2. Judges 16 and 2.
The book of Judges, chapter 16 and verse 2. And it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come hither. And they compassed him in and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city.
That's all I wanted right there. And they laid wait for him. Just because she sent those men that were sent from the king to go, she told them, hey, I don't know where they went, but if you go and run after them now, if you go, you might be able to overtake them. Don't think there weren't anybody else that was still lying in wait, waiting to see them, all right, waiting to catch them. All right, so let's go back. Matter of fact, go to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. We're going to read verse 32 and 33. 2 Corinthians 11, 32 and 33.
The book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 11 and verse 32. In Damascus, the governor under Aretas, the king, kept the city of Damascenes with a garrison, desirous to apprehend me.
Desirous to apprehend me. Go ahead. This is Paul. Okay, recounting history. Go ahead.
And through a window in a basket was I let down by the wall and escaped his hands.
You see that? It's the same thing. Same thing that we're reading here. All right, let's go back. Joshua chapter 2, verse 16.
Book of Joshua, chapter 2 and verse 16. And she said unto them, Get you to the mountain, lest the pursuers meet you, and hide yourselves there 3 days, until the pursuers be returned, and afterward may ye go your way.
Go ahead.
And the men said unto her, We will be blameless of this thine oath, which thou made us swear. Behold, when we come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window, which thou didst let us down by. And thou shalt bring thy father and thy mother and thy brethren and all thy father's household home unto thee. And it shall be that whosoever shall go out of the doors of thy house into the street, his blood shall be upon his head, and will be guiltless.
Now see what he's telling her, right? When we come into the city and we take this city, make sure everybody is in the house. Because if they go out into the streets, hey, we ain't responsible for that, all right? We're telling you the terms of the condition, all right? Go ahead.
And whosoever shall be with thee in the house, his blood shall be on our head, if any hand be upon him. And if thou utter this our business, then we will be quit of thine oath, which thou hast made us to swear.
All right, jump down to verse 23.
Verse 23. So the two men returned and descended from the mountain, and passed over, and came to Joshua the son of Nun, and told him all things that befell them. And they said unto Joshua, Truly, the Lord hath delivered into our hands all the land. For even all the inhabitants of the country do faint because of us.
Why? Because they heard the fame of what the Lord did for us, okay? So now, let's read Joshua chapter 3. We're going to read verses 1 and 2 and then jump down to 5.
The book of Joshua, chapter 3 and verse 1. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and they removed from Shittim, and came to Jordan, he and all the children of Israel, and lodged there before they passed over. And it came to pass after 3 days that the officers went through the host.
Jump down to verse 5.
Verse 5. And Joshua said unto the people, Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you.
So Joshua said unto the people, sanctify yourselves, okay, because the Lord is going to do wonders among you. Let's go back to Exodus. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 19, verse 11 and 12. Let's see where Moses says something very similar. Exodus chapter 19, verse 11 and 12.
The book of Exodus, chapter 19 and verse 11. And be ready against the third day. For the third day, the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves.
I'm sorry, you know what? It was 10 and 11. I'm sorry. 10 and 11.
Verse
I wrote
10.
it down wrong.
And the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day, the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai.
All right, jump down to verse 16.
Verse 16. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled.
All the people what?
Trembled.
All the people in the camp trembled. Go ahead.
And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God.
And Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God. Hey, remember Joshua said that sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. Go ahead.
And they stood at the nether part of the mount.
And
Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace. And the whole mount quaked greatly.
All right, so let's go back. So now we're going to read Joshua chapter 3. We're going to read verses 5 down to 10.
The book of Joshua, chapter 3 and verse 5. And Joshua said unto the people, sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you. And Joshua spake unto the priests, saying, take up the ark of the covenant, and pass over before the people. And they took up the ark of the covenant, and went before the people. And the Lord said unto Joshua, this day will I begin to magnify thee in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that, as I was with Moses, so will I be with thee. And thou shalt command the priests that bear the ark of the covenant, saying, when you are come to the brink of the water of Jordan, you shall stand still in Jordan. And Joshua said unto the children of Israel, come hither, and hear the words of the Lord your God. And Joshua said, hereby you shall know that the living God is among you.
You shall know what?
That the living God is among you. And that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Hivites, and the Perizzites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites.
So now I want you to get Exodus 23. We're going to read 22 down to 30. I'm going to read this again. It says, and Joshua said, hereby you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Hivites, and the Perizzites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites.
The book of Exodus, chapter 23 and verse 22. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries.
And you know that's true to this very day. That's why we tell our people we must repent, come back to keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord and the faith of Jesus Christ, the Black Messiah. All right, go ahead.
For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee in unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off.
Who will cut them off? The Lord will cut them off. Go ahead.
And I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images.
That's how you know this place in America, they claim it's a Christian nation, but it's not, okay? Because the God of Israel, the God of the Bible said, don't worship or serve their gods, okay? Here, they say coexist, like all nations, all gods can be worshiped here. Freedom of religion, which is not true because they persecute the Israelites, right? But go ahead, read on.
Verse 25, and ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee,
Mm-hmm.
and there shall nothing cast their young, nor nor be barren in thy land.
Uh-huh.
The number of thy days I will fulfill,
Go ahead.
and I will
That
send
means you're going to live out. When he says the number of thy days I will fulfill, that means you're going to live out your days. Look what's going on today. Look how there's many people dying and dying ahead of their time. Matter of fact, hold on a second. I wasn't thinking about this before. But let me get Second Ezra. Second Ezra. Chapter 9 and start at 2.
The book of 2 Ezra, chapter 9 and verse 2. Then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world.
Uproars of the people of the world. We're seeing that all over the earth. We just saw what was going down, if you're paying attention, in Ecuador just a few short hours ago. Go ahead.
Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of these things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning.
Even from the beginning. Go ahead.
For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Even so, the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonders and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs.
Go ahead.
And every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed.
Because when we read in the book of James, it says faith without works is dead. Okay, you want to see somebody's faith, they're going to show you by their works. Okay, just like you all being here at, well, it's now 6 a.m. in the east, it's 5 a.m. in the central, and 3 a.m. on the west coast. Okay, so you're up early, right? Watching class, trying to get some understanding. Matter of fact, hold that. Get Romans 10:17, and we coming right back here to 2 Ezra. Just want to make a point. But you're here watching history in the morning. Get that. Romans chapter 10, verse 17.
Book of Romans, chapter 10 and verse 17. So then faith cometh by hearing, and by hearing by the word of God.
Okay, read that one more time.
So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God.
Now, drop that and get James 2 right quick. Let's get that. You know what? And let me just I was going to bring this out later, but read 2 and 18.
Book of James, chapter 2 and verse 18. Yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works.
And I will show thee my faith by my works. Jump down to verse 24.
Verse 24. Ye see then how that by works a man is justified, and not by faith only.
Because, you know, the Christian church tell you ain't got to do nothing but just believe. That's not what the scriptures say. Go ahead.
Likewise also, was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and sent them out another way?
You see that? That's what we just read. Go ahead.
Whereas the body without the spirit, it is dead. So faith without works is dead also.
So faith without works is dead also. Let's go back to 2 Ezra 9 and 7 again.
Book of 2 Ezra, chapter 9 and verse 7. And every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith, whereby ye have believed.
Go ahead.
Shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning.
I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. Go ahead.
Then shall they be in pitiful case, which now have abused my ways,
Mm-hmm.
and they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torments. For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me,
Uh-huh.
and they that have loathed my law,
Hated God's laws.
while they yet had liberty,
Uh-huh.
and when as yet place of repentance was open unto them.
Because in Matthew 12:31, it says all manner of sin can be forgiven except for blasphemy of the Holy Ghost. Go ahead.
When as yet place of repentance was open unto them,
Uh-huh.
understood not, but despised it.
Uh-huh.
The same must know it after death by pain.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. I don't want to turn it into I want to get off the point. Let's go back. Joshua chapter 3 and verse. Where were we at?
We just read verse 10. We
10,
finished
yes.
verse 10.
Read 10 again. Oh, no. Yeah, read 10 again, and then we're going to go to Deuteronomy 71. Read 10 again.
Book of Joshua, chapter 3 and verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
And Joshua said, hereby.
No, you know what? No. That's not where we were. Go back to Exodus 23. We didn't finish that out. We didn't finish that. Exodus 23, that's where we were. Because we were showing how the Lord promised to drive out the 7 nations. 23 and 25 again.
Book of Exodus, chapter 23 and verse 25.
Uh-huh.
And ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee.
Mm-hmm.
There shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in thy land. The number of thy days I will fulfill.
Yeah, that's what it was. The number of thy days will I fulfill. Go ahead.
I will send my fear before thee,
Mm-hmm.
and will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come. And I will make all thine enemies turn their backs unto thee.
Mm-hmm.
And I will
They're
send,
going to run for fear. Go ahead.
and I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite,
Uh-huh.
and the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before thee. I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee.
Go ahead.
By little and little will I drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land.
Until thou be increased and inherit the land. Now let's go back and pick up again at Joshua chapter 3 and verse 11 now.
The book of Joshua, chapter 3 and verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth passeth over before you into Jordan. Now therefore, take you 12 men out of the tribes of Israel, out of every tribe a man. And it shall come to pass, as soon as the soles of the feet of the priests that bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, shall rest in the waters of Jordan, that the waters of Jordan shall be cut off from the waters that come down from above,
Mm-hmm.
and they shall stand upon an heap. And it came to pass, when the people removed from their tents to pass over Jordan, and the priests bearing the ark of the covenant before the people, and as they that bear the ark were coming to Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, for Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of harvest.
Okay, so you got to think about this. So now what's happening, I wish I had a picture. I had somebody working on it. I ain't got it. But anyway, so the priests would bear the Ark of the Covenant, okay? You can read about that. When you go back into Numbers, like chapter 4, 5, 6, you can read about the different responsibilities of Merari and Kohath and Gershom, okay? So when they were bearing the Ark of the Covenant, they stood in the Jordan River. It says, for Jordan overflow all of his banks in the time of harvest. Go to Sirach chapter 24 and verse 25. All right, Ecclesiasticus chapter 24 and verse 25.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 24 and verse 25.
Hold on a second. Let me get there. I'm a little slow this morning. Let me get there with you. 27 seconds. I'll be doing some push-ups right now. Man. All right. I'm with you.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 24 and verse 25.
Uh-huh.
He filleth all things with his wisdom, as Phison and as Tigris, and the time of the new.
Mm-hmm.
He maketh the understand.
What is the time of the new fruits? That's in the spring. That's in the spring. Go ahead.
He maketh the understanding to abound like Euphrates,
Mm-hmm.
and as Jordan in the time of the harvest.
Okay, and as Jordan in the time of the harvest, when it overflows. Okay, all right, let's go back. Verse 16.
Book of Joshua, chapter 3 and verse 16.
Mm-hmm.
That the waters which came down from above stood and rose up upon an heap very far from the city Adam, that is, beside Zeraton. And those that came down toward the sea of the plain, even the sea salt, failed and were
Even
cut
the
off.
what? Even the sea salt.
Even the
You got-
salt sea. Even the salt sea.
You ready to season some food right now, huh? Go ahead.
Even the salt sea failed and were cut off.
Uh-huh.
And the people passed over right against Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
And the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground.
Look at that. They stood firm on dry ground. Hold on a second. I want you to read verse 15 and then jump back down to where it says they stood firm on dry ground.
Verse 15. And as they that bear the ark were coming to Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brim of the water.
Mm-hmm.
For Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of harvest.
Jump down to 17.
Verse 17. And the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground
Uh-huh.
in the midst of Jordan. And all the Israelites passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over Jordan.
You see that the same thing that happened in the Red Sea happened again. All right. Now, let's go to chapter 4 and verse 1. Chapter 4 and verse 1.
The book of Joshua, chapter 4 and verse 1.
We're going to read down to verse 3, and then we're going to jump down to verse 9.
And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, Take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe a man, and command ye them, saying, Take you hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm,
Mm-hmm.
12 stones, and you shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place, where you shall lodge this night.
Now, let's jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests which bear the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there unto this day.
Uh-huh.
For the priests which bear the ark stood in the midst of Jordan, until everything was finished that the Lord commanded Joshua to speak unto the people, according to all that Moses commanded Joshua. And the people hasted and passed over. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over, that the ark of the Lord passed over, and the priests, in the presence of the people,
Mm-hmm.
and the children of Reuben, and the children of Gad, and half the tribe of Manasseh passed over armed before the children of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
as Moses spake unto them. About 40,000.
About how many?
About 40,000
Uh-huh.
prepared for war.
Prepare for what?
Prepared for war.
That's why this series is called The Wars of the Lord. They were prepared for war. Matter of fact, hold that. Give me 2 Corinthians 10 and verse 4. 2 Corinthians 10 and verse 4. Start at verse 3.
The book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 10 and verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh.
We do not what?
We do not war after the flesh.
Telling you that we're still at war. This time it's a spiritual war. Go ahead.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal,
Uh-huh.
but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds,
Mm-hmm.
casting down imaginations, and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God,
Go ahead.
and bringeth into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ,
Read.
and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience
To revenge all disobedience.
when your obedience is fulfilled.
All right, let's go back. Joshua 4 and 13 again.
The book of Joshua, chapter 4 and verse 13. About 40,000 prepared for war passed over before the Lord unto battle
Go ahead.
to the plains of Jericho. On that day, the Lord magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life.
So Joshua is being magnified, and we're going to get a little bit more into that as we read on. But it says, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life. Let's jump down to verse 19.
Verse 19. And all the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal in the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of Jordan did Joshua pitch in Gilgal. And he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, when your children shall ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what mean these stones? Then you shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land.
Go ahead.
For the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you until ye were passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us until we were gone over, that all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord that is mighty, that ye might fear the Lord your God forever.
So now, you know what? It says that all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that ye might fear the Lord your God forever. Now watch this. Give me this. We read this a lot of times when we send up prayers. Get Sirach chapter 36. Sirach chapter 36. Get the verse that I want. Get the verse that I want. Read 1 through 5. There you go. 1 through 5.
The book of Sirach, chapter 36 and verse 1. Have mercy upon us, O Lord God of all, and behold us, and send thy fear upon all the nations that seek not after thee.
You see that? Send thy fear, Lord, upon all the nations that seek not after thee. Go ahead.
Lift up thy hand against the strange nations, and let them see thy power.
Let all the nations of the earth see thy power. Go ahead.
As thou wast sanctified in us before them, so be thou magnified among them before us.
Magnify yourself among them before us. Go ahead.
And let them know thee as we have known thee, that there is no God but only thou, O God.
There is no God but only thou, O God. We read that in Psalms 96 and verse 5. Now watch this. Get Romans. When it says, it says in verse 4, as thou was sanctified in us before them, so be thou magnified among them before us. Watch this. Get Romans chapter 9. And I'm going to get straight to the point. Verse 17.
Book of Romans, chapter 9 and verse 17. For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up.
This is going into Rome at that time, but this is America. This is Esau, Edom. Okay, to make it plain. Even the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up. Go ahead.
That I might show my power in thee.
That I might what?
Show my power in thee. And that my name might be declared throughout all the earth.
You see, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Let's go back to Joshua. Let's go back to Joshua chapter, the last verse, chapter 4, the last verse. Nothing has changed.
The book of Joshua, chapter 4 and verse 24. That all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that ye might fear the Lord your God forever.
So all the people of the earth all the people of the earth. The same thing that he's saying here as we go into the war to take the land, he's saying he's going to magnify himself again at the end. Okay, now let's go from there to read 5 and 1, and then we're gonna jump back over the Numbers right quick. Right, just read Joshua 5 and 1 first.
The book of Joshua, chapter 5 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
And it came to pass, when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Israel, until we were passed over, that their heart melted. Neither was there spirit in them anymore.
Neither was there spirit in them anymore. You know what? Just keep reading. We'll go back to Numbers in just a minute.
Neither was there spirit in them anymore, because of the children of Israel. At that time, the Lord said unto Joshua, make these sharp knives and circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. And
now, he says, circumcise the children of Israel again the second time. Okay, so I want y'all to pay very close attention. Read on.
And Joshua made him sharp knives and circumcised the children of Israel at the hill of the foreskins. And this is the cause of why Joshua did circumcise. All the people that came out of Egypt that were males, even all the men of war, died in the wilderness by the way after they came out of Egypt. Now all the people that came out were circumcised.
Now what?
All the people that came out were circumcised. But all the people that are born in the wilderness by the way as they came forth out of Egypt, them they had not circumcised.
Now let's get that covenant right quick. Get Genesis chapter 17 and read 10 through 12. Genesis 17, 10 through 12.
The book of Genesis chapter 17 and verse 10. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man-child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin. It shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man-child in your generations. He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed.
Okay, so let's go back. And read verse 5 again.
Book of Joshua, chapter 5 and verse 5. Now all the people that came out were circumcised, but all the people that were born in the wilderness by the way as they came forth out of Egypt, them they had not circumcised.
Okay, so all the people that were born in the wilderness by the way, that was the second generation. So you had those that were being circumcised. Some may have been up to 40, right, and on down, okay, because they were born in the wilderness, and we encompassed the wilderness for 40 years. Go back to Numbers chapter 26. Numbers chapter 26 and verse 63.
Book of Numbers, chapter 26 and verse 63. These are they that were numbered by Moses and Eleazar, the priest.
Hold on a second. Go to 26, and we've been over this already, so I'm not getting ready to go over all of it. But go to 26 and 2, and then jump back down. All right. I went over this in the last class. But go ahead, jump 26 and 2, and then jump back down to verse 63.
The book of Numbers, chapter 26 and verse 2. Take the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, from 20 years old and upward, throughout their father's house, all that are able to go to war in Israel.
All that are able to go to war in Israel. Okay.
Verse 63. These are they that were numbered by Moses and Eleazar the priest.
I'm sorry, hold on. Start at 62.
Yes, sir. Verse 62. And those that were numbered of them were 23,000, all males from a month old and upward. For they were not numbered among the children of Israel, because there was no inheritance given them among the children of Israel.
Now, this is the Levites. Now, go ahead.
These are they that were numbered by Moses and Eleazar, the priest, who numbered the children of Israel in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho. But among these there was not a man of them whom Moses and Aaron the priests numbered, when they numbered the children of Israel in the wilderness of Sinai.
Go ahead.
For the Lord had said of them, they shall surely die in the wilderness.
We read that in Numbers chapter 14. Go ahead.
And there was not left a man of them, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun.
Okay, so now let's go back. So what we're reading is that in verse 65 is that that generation that came out of Egypt into the wilderness. Only Caleb and Joshua made it out. All of the rest marched around until they died. Okay, again, we went over that in the last class. All right, go ahead. Let's jump back to Joshua 5 and 6 now.
The book of Joshua, chapter 5 and verse 6. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness, till all the people that were men of war, which came out of Egypt, were consumed, because they obeyed not the voice of the Lord, unto whom the Lord sware that he would not show them the land, which the Lord sware unto their fathers that he would give us, a land that floweth with milk and honey. And their children, whom he raised up in their stead, them Joshua circumcised, but they were uncircumcised, because they had not circumcised them by the way. And it came to pass, when they had done circumcising all the people, that they abode in their places in the camp till they were whole. And the Lord said unto Joshua, this day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off you. Wherefore, the name of the place is called Gilgal unto this day.
So now it said, this day, the Lord said unto Joshua, this day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off you, right? Because the Egyptians are uncircumcised, okay? The Nilotics, okay? The Nilotes, the Hamites, were uncircumcised, okay? And so for 40 years, the second generation was marching around in the wilderness, and they were uncircumcised as well. Read that verse again.
Verse 9, and the Lord said unto Joshua, this day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off you. Wherefore, the name of the place is called Gilgal unto this day. And the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal, and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even, in the plains of Jericho. And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow, after the Passover, unleavened cakes, and parched corn in the selfsame day. So
they kept the Passover in the wilderness. They kept the Passover in the wilderness. Okay. I'm sorry. In the land. I'm sorry. I misspoke on it. They kept the Passover in the land because at this point we are on the west side of Jordan. We had crossed over. Matter of fact, put that picture back up that I had you bring up of the Jabbok River, because it has Jordan there. Yeah. All right, blow that back up. All right, y'all, you see the Jordan River? He's got the cursor on the Jordan River. So now we're on the green side. We're on the west side of the river. So we're in the land. We are in the land, and we kept the Passover, all right, in the first month. All right, let's go back. Let's go back. Joshua 5 and 12.
The book of Joshua, chapter 5 and verse 12. And the manna ceased on the morrow, after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna any more, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year.
You see that? So now we can pinpoint when the manna ceased. All right. Matter of fact, get that in Exodus 16. Exodus 16. And Exodus 16. verse 30. Oh, 35. 35. Read that.
Book of Exodus, chapter 16 and verse 35.
Mm-hmm.
And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came to a land inhabited.
Mm-hmm.
They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan.
Okay, so it says, and the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years until they came to a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Into the land of Canaan. All right. Now, go to the book of St. John, chapter 6. St. John, chapter 6 and verse 31.
Book of John, chapter 6 and verse 31.
Mm-hmm.
Our fathers did eat. Our fathers.
Who?
Our fathers.
Our fathers
did eat manna in the desert.
Uh-huh.
As it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat.
Go ahead, jump down to verse 49.
Verse 49. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness and are dead.
Uh-huh.
This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die.
Go ahead.
I am the living bread.
This is what Christ is saying. I am the living bread,
which came down from heaven.
Uh-huh.
If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world.
Which I will give for the life of the world. Just write this down if you don't understand this precept. Isaiah 45:17. That world is Israel. Isaiah 45:17. John 18:20. That world is Israel. Let's go back. Joshua, 5 and 13 now.
Book of Joshua, chapter 5 and verse 13. And it came to pass, when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us or for our adversaries?
Joshua was about it. He said, Art thou for us or for our adversaries? Go ahead.
And he said, Nay, but as captain of the hosts of the Lord am I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy.
Now wait
and Joshua did so.
Now wait a minute. Wait a minute. We see so many parallels to Joshua and Moses. Get Exodus chapter 3. Get Exodus chapter 3 and verse 2.
The book of Exodus, chapter 3 and verse 2. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed.
Go ahead.
And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet.
Do what?
Put off thy shoes from off thy feet. For the place whereon thou standest is holy ground.
For the place wherein thou standest is holy ground. Okay, let's go back. Now we're going to get into Jericho, all right? The taking of Jericho. We're going to read through it because of time, but we're going to be going back and forth for the next chapter or two, all right? But before we get into verse 6, I want you to jump to chapter 12. I want you to jump to chapter 12, and I want you to read 7 through 9.
Book of Joshua, chapter 12 and verse 7.
And you know what? We never did read Deuteronomy 7:1, did we?
No, sir.
Okay, let's read this first.
And these are the kings of the country which Joshua and the children of Israel smote on this side Jordan on the west, from Baal Gad and the valley of Lebanon, even unto the Mount Halak, that goeth up to Seir, which Joshua gave unto the tribes of Israel for a possession according to their divisions.
Mm-hmm.
In the mountains and in the valleys and in the plains and in the springs and in the wilderness and in the south country, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites.
So now, hold on a second. All right, go ahead.
Verse 9, the king of Jericho, 1.
That's what I wanted. So now, when you read in verse 7, it says, and these are the kings of the country, which Joshua and the children of Israel smote. Smote how? By the edge of the sword. In war. In war. All right? Smote on this side Jordan on the west. And we get down and it says, verse 8, in the mountains and in the valleys and in the plains and in the springs and in the wilderness and in the south country, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The king of Jericho won. Now, we're going to, when we go back and read through it, there's 31 kings in all that were destroyed. 31 kings in all that were destroyed. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1. We just want 7 and 1. And then we're going to go back to Joshua 6.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7 and verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land, whither thou goest to possess it, and hast cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations, greater and mightier than thou.
He says 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. All right, let's go back. Joshua 6.
Book of Joshua, chapter 6 and verse 1. Now Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
None went out and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times. And the priest shall blow with the trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when thou make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when ye hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, every man straight before him.
Mm-hmm.
And Joshua, the son of Nun, called the priests, and said unto them, take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said unto the people, pass on, and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of the Lord. And it shall come to, and it came to pass, when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Lord and blew the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them.
Okay, hold on. Let me get it. Let me pick up from here, Dewey. Verse 9. And the armed men went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the reward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua had commanded the people, saying, ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout, then ye shall shout. So the ark of the Lord compassed the city, going about it once, and they came into the camp and lodged in the camp. Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, 7 priests bearing 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually, and blew with the trumpets, and the armed men went before them, but the reward came after the ark of the Lord. And the the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And the second day they compassed the city once and returned into the camp. So they did 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, shout, for the Lord hath given you the city, and the city shall be accursed, even it and all that are therein. To the Lord, only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that were with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent. Now remember, Joshua was remembering the covenant that was made, because remember, the men came back, the spies, when we read that in chapter 2, the spies came back and they said, we made a covenant with her, right? All right, verse 18. And ye in any wise, keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves accursed when you take of the accursed thing, and make the camp of Israel accursed and trouble it. We want to remember this because we're going to be coming back to this later on, all right? But all the silver and gold and vessels of brass and iron are consecrated unto the Lord. They shall come into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted when the priests blew with the trumpets. And it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city. And they took the city. Where do we read that, Dewey? I need you to read Daniel chapter 7. Chapter 7. We're going to read the parallels. We're going to read the parallels to this. Daniel chapter 7 and 18.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 18.
Mm-hmm.
But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom.
Shall what?
Take the kingdom. And possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
Even forever and ever. Okay? So we're going to take the city. Just take the kingdom just like we took the city. All right, let's go back. Joshua chapter 6 and verse 21. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and woman, young and old, ox and sheep and ass with the edge of the sword. But Joshua had said unto the 2 men that had spied out the country, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman and all that she hath, as ye swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in and bought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brethren and all that she had. They bought out all her kindred and left them without the camp of Israel. And they burnt the city with fire and all that was therein, only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. And Joshua saved Rahab alive, and her father's household, and all that she had. And she dwelt in Israel even unto this day. But remember, at the bottom of verse 23, it says, without the camp. All right, without the camp. So it says, and she dwelt in Israel even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. And Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before the Lord that riseth up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was noised throughout all the country. and his fame was noised throughout all the country. Duel. Read chapter 4, verse 14. Read 4, verse 14.
The book of Joshua, chapter 4 and verse 14.
Uh-huh.
On that day, the Lord magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life.
So Joshua began to be magnified, okay, as a leader, as a warrior in Israel, much the same way as Moses. All right, so we're going to end it there. We're going to end it there today. Thank you for tuning in to History in the AM. Again, I'm Captain Kimuel out of Orlando. Make sure to tune in to Daily Bread, mid-morning meditations. What we got tonight, Dewey? This Wednesday night. All right, just tune in. Just tune in. Make sure you're getting fed. All right, and with that, we say shalom.